I'd done the music for Broad Street, and that had involved doing a lot of old songs. And that was nice to do, but it wasn't as exciting as doing new stuff.
And this week marks 40 years since Press to Play was released in 1986. August 25th, 1986 to be exact. So, yeah, you know what? Did the public get it wrong, is the question. Well, kind of. And we're going to explore that a little bit, with some of the tracks and some of the favorites and everything like that. First of all, the cover art, I figured I'd bring this out. And it looks very similar to the Double Fantasy cover, which I have right here, which I got a few months ago. And as you can see, yeah, definitely mirror images of each other. Although Double Fantasy was a little bit more successful commercially than Press to Play was. And, there's a lot of information out about the album Press to Play, so I'm also going to plug, again, Luca Perazzi's book, Press to Play, that unmistakable 80s sound. So if you want all the information on Press to Play, this is the book to get. So my memories of the album are this, about, 11 years old or 10 years old at the time or whatever it was. And, when the album was released, I remember seeing the clip for the video Press on MTV. It's the one where Paul's on the London Underground subway. And we do have to backtrack just a little bit, even before I go a little bit further. So what happened was, of course, 1984, Paul releases Give My Regards to Broad Street. So again, I love the film. I've championed it on this channel many times and will continue to do so. But objectively, the film was made for $9 million approximately, only made about $1.5 million opening weekend in the United States. Not a commercial success. Although No More Lonely Nights did hit the top 10 in 1984, and the soundtrack, debuted and got all the way up to at least number 21 in the U.S. charts and went gold, shipping 500,000 copies in the United States. 1985 saw the release of the single Spies Like Us. This was Paul's first single since leaving Columbia Records the year before. He had been with Columbia Records between 1979 to 1984. He goes back to Capitol Records for a time being. So 1985 sees Spies Like Us. Again, from the movie the same name, single hits the top 10, hits number 7 on the U.S. charts. So okay, maybe commercially, song-wise at least, maybe Broad Street didn't have as much of an effect. Well, that changed with this album. Maybe this album was part of the more massive commercial fallout from Broad Street, because this particular album itself, Press to Play, only got to number 30 in the U.S. charts, failed to go gold even upon initial release, his first album to do so. And the single Press itself only made it to about, I believe, number 25 on the charts. And, again, it deserved a better fate, in my view. I think definitely Press, the song itself, is very catchy. It's got the very 80s sound. That 80s sounds, was definitely part of the time, of course. Personally, I think it should have gone top 10. And producing the album was Hugh Padgham. Now, Hugh had been producing albums in the past with associated acts like Synchronicity from 1983 with The Police, No Jacket Required from 1985 with Phil Collins. So certainly Paul wanted to kind of update and really go for that 80s sound. Well, again, going through the album itself, there's some good tracks. I really think this is a solid B album. And it's a shame that at least the general public didn't connect with it at the time. It's definitely got some strong material on it. Again, it starts off side 1 with Stranglehold, written by Paul McCartney and Eric Stewart. Now, Eric Stewart had been part of the band 10cc, and of course had worked with Paul with Tug of War, Pipes of Peace, and Broad Street from 1982, 1983, and 1984, respectively. There we go. Good Times Coming, Feel the Sun. Good track, although this one should have been much longer, especially the Feel the Sun part. If you go to various, bootlegs, Dutch imports, whatever you want to call them, there's a much longer version of that second half of the song, and I think it's much better than what ended up on the album. Talk More Talk, experimental, fine, good enough, kind of in a trippy 80s way. Next track, Footprints on side 1. Okay, that's a good one. That is a really, really good track. Action, probably one of Paul's best ballads overall. I really wish he would perform this one live. Probably will never happen, but, just kind of going through bit by bit on some of the favorite tracks and less favorite tracks. Only Love Remains, written by McCartney. You know what? Very much, Again, very much like, sounds like a standard wedding type of song, that could be played at a wedding reception. Side 2 kicks off with Press, which again was the main single from the album. Pretty Little Head, that's kind of a very trippy song, very much, got a very cool video in it if you ever want to check it out. Move Over Busker, nice enough song, kind of rambles along, images of Errol Flynn and 1930s and stuff like that, at least a part of the song. Angry by Paul McCartney and Eric Stewart. The interesting thing about the track Angry is it also has Phil Collins and Pete Townsend on rhythm section. So again, on paper this should have worked, right? You had them on this track. The single Press had Carlos Alomar from David Bowie's band. So I mean, you definitely, it should have worked. It should have worked commercially. The end of the album proper itself is, however, absurd. Again, a bit more like maybe I Am the Walrus. Now, for most of us, of course, we have the compact disc version. The 3 bonus tracks, Right Away, which is a nice little jazzy number, my favorite. It's not true, nice enough, but I think there's some better mixes out there, especially on the, the more recent McCartney digital box set for the singles and everything. Tough on the Tightrope, again, very nice. It's overall the sound of this, I mean, it is obviously a very 80s sound, again, with Hugh producing. I think some of the pitfalls may have been some behind-the-scenes drama, as you may have heard from other videos. I certainly have with other podcasts that brought that up. Again, this finds Paul sort of at an uncertain point in a lot of ways. I mean, up until this point, he's still having some success into the 80s with some hit singles at least. Albums seem to be doing okay, maybe not blockbuster, but certainly, he's used to having maybe million-selling albums or, 500,000 copies sold of an album, at least a top 10 hit on, on each album. And this is really the first one that I can think of, at least going back to about Wildlife, where there's no real top 10 single from the album itself. That was back in 1971 with Wildlife. But again, I think the public did get it wrong a little bit. I think, Paul was trying to experiment a little bit. I think it's a very daring record itself, especially 40 years later, with people reevaluating the sound. Certainly people are, I think, starting to rediscover some of those 80s tracks and seeing it through a modern lens. But again, at this point, commercially, Paul's 44 at that point, considered quote-unquote over the hill, although I'd like to see what some of those critics think now, since everybody's 40 years older. That's just what it is, right? But, a really good album. I think, nice enough cover. I kind of like the design in the middle here. It's Paul's drawings right here of basically all the, it's like a spatial diagram of all the sounds and everything, and all that. So, again, 40 years later, I think the case can be made to revisit Press to Play. I think if you haven't played it in a while, I mean, this is one that's been on my rotation for quite a number of years, along with Broad Street, along with Tug of War, along with Flowers in the Dirt and Flaming Pie. I think it's a wonderful album on its own terms. Again, I think there's definitely some experimentation that Paul really wouldn't quite hit again, maybe until some more of the Fireman albums in the 90s. But there are some nice moments on this album, and, it's got a lot of good songs on it, a lot of good things to recommend on it. So just kind of looking back on it over 40 years, it's definitely one you should check out. I think if you're digging deeper into the catalog, you can't go wrong with Press to Play. And again, just another plug for Luca's book. If you want the real story behind it, I've interviewed this gentleman before. He knows his stuff. So this definitely fills in a lot of the story, especially 40 years later, at this point with Press to Play. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next episode. That next episode is going to have to do with a very special event that happened 60 years ago, so be on the lookout for that next episode. Finally, just thank you all for the feedback, for the comments, for liking the videos. The thumbs up, like, and subscribe has been helping the channel. Certainly continuing to grow over these years, and I'm enjoying this. And you know what? I think after I'm done with the video, I'll go ahead and re-listen to some of those tracks as I'm doing some of the editing and everything. I'll see everybody in the next episode.